Hey guys, welcome back to Blue Fire Toys and Collectibles. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the S.H. Monsterarts figure of Godzilla as he appears in the Oscar-winning film Godzilla Minus One. So without further ado, let's get into this. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, I really recommend checking out Godzilla Minus One. It is available on Netflix and Fandango at Home Video on Demand. It's a great movie. So this figure here, I bought at the end of last year. That's when I pre-ordered mine from Big Bad Toy Store. I paid $139.99 plus $4 flat rate shipping, plus an additional tax on top of that of $14.40 for a grand total of $158.39. Now, overall, I'm just going to be perfectly honest. I think the price was exceptionally high for this figure. $160 for this figure when others in this line have retailed as low as $65. Yeah, that's a little much, but it is what it is, and I bought it because I love the movie. I love the design of this Godzilla. I think the figure itself is fantastic, and I'm going to show you a couple of points, a couple of highlights in a moment. So let's start off by taking a look at Godzilla himself. Let's look at the sculpt. And as you can see, the sculpt is absolutely amazing. I can't say enough good things about the sculpt, the texturing, the keloid scarring all along his body, the weathered, nasty, gnarled look, as I've said before about Godzilla. The spines are sharp, and they are literally sharp. They are actually sharp and pointy to the touch. So please be careful with that. I recommend keeping this away from children because, like I said, those spines are incredibly sharp and they are actually a little dangerous. It does make the figure a little bit difficult to handle and pose, actually, because of how sharp they are when you grab it like that. I just did that right now. But you have to hold it like that if you want to pose it properly in certain areas. So be prepared for little indents there on your hands as you're moving them around. But as for any of the other detail, I'll bring them up close. I mean, look at that. That head is awesome. There's absolutely no mistakes on mine that I've seen. I've done a thorough inspection on any kind of mistakes with paint applications or anything bent or broken. The articulation on this figure is up to the typical S.H. Monsterarts standards. The arms do a full 360. It is difficult to do, and I don't really recommend doing it. The most I've posed mine out are like that. So it looks like he's roaring towards the city or shooting his heat ray. His legs, his toes are individually articulated, which are very cool. And it lends actually to a better sense of posability because you can get him into better poses. You can get him into better stands like this because of the way the toes can move. So I'll move my hand away. You can actually just stand him like that, which is really cool. His tail acts as kind of a second stand. So having him pose like this, I have his tail pointed at the ground, so it can actually be up here, which I think looks awesome. It looks like it's straight out of the movie. I've already kind of touched on paint apps, but I'm going to go into that again right now. The paint apps on this guy are perfect. I've seen no issues whatsoever. They did a nice brownish gray dry brush over the typical charcoal black of Godzilla's skin. The mouth is kind of a faded red color. The teeth are kind of almost bone white. They're a little bit dirtier than that, but you can see up here on the left side of the face, those of you who have seen the movie know what that's from. I, again, am not going to go into spoilers, so I'm not going to detail that. I recommend you just watch the movie. So, moving on to accessories. Did this guy come with anything? Sadly, no. He did not come with a single accessory, which I think actually overall hurt this figure by not coming with a heat ray or different claws or anything like that. For $160, to only get the Godzilla figure in the set, that's not great. But the good news is, if you are an avid collector of S.H. Monsterarts or NECA or other Godzilla figures, you can simply use existing heat rays with Godzilla, and he looks really, really cool. This one pictured here is actually a heat ray from the NECA Godzilla 2019 from Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I just drilled a hole in the bottom so that it would fit the S.H. Monsterarts stand, and there you go. That's what it looks like posed with S.H. Monsterarts Godzilla Minus One. So there is something additional I want to mention about this figure. Of course, Godzilla fans know that Godzilla Minus One was released in color and was released as Godzilla Minus One minus color. The black and white version is equally fantastic to the color version, except the black and white version is a little bit scarier. Upcoming, S.H. Monsterarts will be releasing a black and white version of this figure, which retails right now for $144.99, which is about $5 more than the original release version, and the minus color version also does not seem to come with a heat ray or anything like that. No accessories whatsoever. It's just a black and white version of this figure. I've looked at the pictures for the minus color version of this figure, and I've got to say, for $145 before tax and shipping, still no accessories, still no real improvements. That's more than I'm willing to spend on a reissue, a special color version of this figure. Now, overall, do I think this figure is worth picking up? Absolutely. If you can track this one down, it's currently sold out on Big Bad Toy Store, but if you can track it down anywhere, I fully recommend picking this figure up. It is one of the best Godzilla figures I purchased all of last year. And that's saying something, because I got some really good Godzilla figures last year. But this is actually one of my favorite S.H. Monsterarts figures, for one thing. And it is one that I will fully recommend picking up. There are a couple of issues I do want to address with this figure. This may be exclusive to mine, I don't know, but I do need to mention this. So, I mentioned before that the toes are articulated, but let me show you something on mine when you move it too much. Yeah, that just comes right out. I've thought about gluing that in there, but there doesn't seem to be any glue on it. So I don't know if that's meant to be glued in there, and I don't want to wreck the figure. So I'm probably just going to leave it as it is and just be careful with it. It doesn't really hurt the overall figure. It's just, it's difficult to get back in. But that's just something to look out for. That's, again, maybe exclusive to mine. I don't know. Another problem with mine, when you move this spine here on the back of his neck, moves so that when you pose him, it can move so that he can get a better looking up pose. Like so. But be careful, because this spine comes right off. There's nothing holding it in because it's moving. It's not on a hinge or anything like that. It's just kind of sitting in there. And that's a little disappointing. One more thing on mine. Again, maybe exclusive to mine. This right hand, when I move it too much, comes off just that easily. So be careful with these figures. You don't want to lose your parts. You don't want anything to happen to it. Good news is the hand goes back on just that easily. So just be mindful of that if you're going to track this down on the aftermarket. I've seen it priced at upwards of $200 or more. It's not a $200 figure. It's not a $160 figure, which is what I paid for it originally. This would be a fantastic $70 to $80 figure. Another issue I do want to point out, when bending him, this piece here is kind of free floating. So be careful of that because it will bump up against other spines on his back, and you don't want anything to break because it gets caught. So you just got to be careful. But he can get posed into some pretty awesome positions here and some pretty movie accurate positions. There's just a brief example. So this is just for fun. This is a little awards statue that I found at a local toy store, and it seemed fitting. I bought it a week after Godzilla won his first ever Oscar in 70 years, and I have this award statue on the shelf with my S.H. Monsterarts Godzilla Minus One. Though it took 70 years, Godzilla is finally an Oscar winner, so I wanted to have something to commemorate that occasion. Here's just a fun little example of scale. On the left is the S.H. Monsterarts Godzilla vs. Kong from 2021. And on the right, of course, is the S.H. Monsterarts Godzilla Minus One. That's just an idea of scale. This, of course, is not film accurate, as Kong in the Monsterverse is much bigger than Minus One Godzilla. But I think they still look actually pretty cool together. It's kind of got a King Kong versus Godzilla from 1962 vibe now that I'm looking at it. So that's just fun. Here is the S.H. Monsterarts Godzilla Minus One taking on the S.H. Monsterarts Multifunction System Type 3 Kiyu, the original release version from 2014. These two actually scale pretty well together. I like the way they look battling one another. So yeah, this just kind of turned out to be a happy accident of absolute awesome. So I added some buildings and effect parts there so you get a better idea. That just looks really cool to me. I don't know why, but this Godzilla Minus One fighting Kiyu just looks really cool. Here we have the S.H. Monsterarts Godzilla Minus One and the Super 7 Rose Form Biolante figure. So, what are my final thoughts on this figure? Well, as I said before, if you can track this figure down, definitely do so. I wouldn't recommend paying more than $160 for it. But if you really want it in your collection and you're willing to spend the money, go for it, because this figure is totally worth it. I 100% recommend this figure. It is one of the best S.H. Monsterarts figures I have in my collection, and I've been collecting S.H. Monsterarts since their inception way back in 2011. This Godzilla figure is absolutely one of the best S.H. Monsterarts has put out. Despite the few minor flaws that I mentioned about it, I don't think that inhibits or hinders this figure in any way whatsoever. And I have been able to put him in such a variety of poses. It's been really cool. Here's another example of what the pose looks like. I have this scale model battleship, so I have Godzilla fighting it. This is a loose recreation of a scene from the movie, so if you like what you see here, go watch the movie. It's totally worth it. I know I've said that a lot. I'm gonna keep saying it. It's awesome. So with that, I think that's really all I have to say about this figure. If you can find it, if you want to pick it up, absolutely do so. He's completely worth it. The lack of accessories do not hurt this figure. The minor issues I mentioned do not hurt this figure. He looks great on your shelf standing next to any other monster in the Monsterarts line, or as I showed you, Super 7 line. He looks great posed with buildings are just so low, heat ray, no heat ray. This figure just looks awesome by itself. So even if you're just getting into collecting Godzilla, I recommend picking this one up. He's going to be hard to find, but the hunt is absolutely worth the reward. So with that, I just want to say thank you everybody for watching. Stay tuned for more Godzilla and action figure reviews on this channel. And please don't forget, help the channel grow. This is a new channel. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you like what you see here, I do take recommendations. If anybody wants to see anything special on this channel, particularly where Godzilla is concerned, chances are I already have it in my collection. So feel free to make a recommendation. And on that note, I hope this helps in your collecting endeavors. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.